Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 146. How small changes can create lasting impacts. My interview with Tabitha Perry, MSW and Life Coach. Well, before I introduce Tabitha, I just want to say thank you. We made 10,000 downloads this week, and that's because of you guys. You're learning lots of great stuff and applying it to your life, so thank you. This podcast is here for you, and it's here to share, so pass it around. All right, well, I'm really excited to have someone on the show today that can be a great resource to all you ladies out there, and to those of you partners who would love to give like a great Mother's Day or birthday gift to that special woman in your life. Tabitha Perry is a life coach who helps you change your life one small edit at a time. With her background in social work, Tabitha is all about the logistics of how to empower others to make important life changes. She loves to give practical advice and will offer simple ways for you to edit your life so that you no longer feel stressed, burned out, or unorganized. She has a lot of experience that connects her to most of your everyday issues, and you're going to feel encouraged that you're not alone in your struggles, and you'll be inspired to take action in your life and to learn simple ways to edit your life so that you'll thrive personally and professionally. Tabitha says she believes you are busy, brilliant, and bombarded by a million little choices every day. And as your life coach, she can help you strategize, organize, and optimize your life. I'm really tickled to get to know Tabitha, and I love our conversation because I think it really speaks to the heart of how to get your butt off the couch, how to get motivated, how to get started, or how to get restarted. All right, so let's get to it. Here's Tabitha. Well, Tabitha, I want to welcome you to the show. I'm really grateful that you're here. You and I had a conversation recently about the wonderful work that you do with your coaching clients. So I'm really excited to have you on because I'm looking forward to learning some things as well. And I know our listeners are going to be tickled to hear all the wisdom that you have to share. So if you could, tell us what brought you here to this specific work. You know, you're a clinical social worker, then doing coaching work. What do you think guided you to helping people have clarity in their life?
Ooh, such a good question. And Mary, it's so fun to be here. And it's a lot of fun to talk with a therapist too, because I feel like we can kind of get deeper quicker. And so I'm excited to jump in. So I absolutely love the field of social work because it's all about systems. And I love psychology too, right? Kind of diving deep to like an individual person. But for social work, for me, it's just like understanding the environment that someone came from, the people that they were raised around, their spiritual beliefs, all of their core beliefs, right? And so I got into coaching because really it's about systems and it's about looking forward, looking to your future and all of the systems that you kind of have to have in place in order to get there. Now, sometimes you can get there willy-nilly, but usually that means there's probably a lot of chaos and drama, and it probably takes you a little bit longer. So I have always loved being able to be structured and ordered. And so that has allowed me to get to some of my goals, I feel like, quicker because of these different structures that I've put in place, which I've gotten a lot of the tools from being an only child and having to figure out a lot of things on my own, and also being a stay-at-home mom and realizing I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom and what the heck am I going to do with my life, and needing to kind of figure that out. So my own personal journey has allowed me to really connect with other women who are not the typical 9-to-5er, right? Like they're the stay-at-home mom, they're the life insurance sales, they're in real estate. They have a crazy schedule and it's really hard to figure life out.
Wow. Thank you. Yes. And I'm with you. I'm a big environment person. And I migrated into coaching because I wanted to know, okay, but how do you fix it? With therapy, you're processing what happened and how it hurt you. And yes, we need to do that deeper work. But my argument all along has been, but wait, you can't leave people there. How do they live differently? Like, what's the point of doing all that work if you can't change and make things better and healthier and happier for yourself? So I'm never satisfied, with the answer, well, you can't. Like, no, I think there's got to be ways for us to find that work for us in our life where we can be more authentic, happier, and healthier. And I watch people do it, and it's the coolest thing.
Absolutely. I think that therapy and coaching are just like husband and wife. They just like create this beautiful relationship, right? So I always like to describe to my clients, like therapy is like on a spectrum of like -10 to 0, like getting you to that 0 to that baseline. And then coaching is 0 to +10. Like, let's move you forward in life. Many people hang out at 0 and that's their choice. They can absolutely do that. But there's a lot of go-getters and driven people that want to move their life forward, that want to better themselves and to cultivate, their strengths. And so being able to help them do that is just so important. And one of the areas that I've worked in is in corrections. So I worked in the prisons, and that was a lot of drama, right? Talking a lot about the childhood trauma, and we would just get stuck in it. But it was really cool to eventually find a couple of those prisoners that were wanting to do something with their life. And we got to move past all that trauma, identify, yep, you're in prison. Okay, great. Now what are we going to do? Okay, you're taking GED classes. You're going to the counseling. You're going to move yourself forward. Like, there is no excuse. If someone in prison can do it, we can definitely do it here on the outs.
That is so true. When I taught inside, because I did teach some non-credit inside because I was a criminal justice major undergrad. Yeah.
Like-minded. Yes.
But really was more interested in the psychology piece. So went on for a master's in psychology. But I remember sitting with those guys, and they were more interested almost in changing, right? Some of them, and it is really powerful to see. And you're right. If they can do it, anybody can do it. If they can identify what they want different for their life.
Yes. And I find so many times, specifically the women that I coach, they kind of create their own prison for themselves of like limitations. Right. And like, they've got the key. Like, there's no reason that they need to be living in a prison. They feel like they can't go and do these things because of their kids or their husband or their schedule, and realizing that they are the orchestrator of their life. They get to say yes and no to whatever they want. Yes, there's going to be consequences. Yes, it's going to be hard, but they can do something. There are people literally in prison who are wanting that freedom, to live out that freedom. And so it's been so fun to be able to help women kind of break out of their own prison, literally and figuratively, to create that change in themselves so that way they can move forward and live the life that they're called to.
That is so key. What you implicated was choice, that prisoners don't have freedom, right? There's some choices within, what they're working with.
Yes.
But we have so many more choices than someone who is incarcerated.
Yep. We absolutely do. But we forget that. We forget that freedom, myself included.
Right. Because perception is reality. We want to challenge our perceptions, is what I'm hearing you say you do with your clients. What are some of the biggest cognitive distortions, or whatever you want to call them, limiting beliefs that you hear? What are the most common ones that you hear?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot with women that, in order for me to be a good mom, I have to focus my entire being, everything on my children, and I cannot do anything for me.
Right.
It's kind of a dramatic version of it, right? And really, when it comes down to it, is you can't show up as the best version of a mom if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
Right? Or this idea that my schedule is crazy. My life is crazy. I'm always going to be tired. I'm always going to feel behind. That is also false and limiting, because we have the opportunity to make these choices of the things we say yes to and the things that we say no to. No one is holding a gun to your head saying you have to do something. And I know that's a very dramatic way, but sometimes we feel like there is. Like, well, what? if I don't do this, then XYZ will happen. Okay, well, let's talk it out. What would happen then? We all have choices. And so to be able to empower ourselves, and I feel like for so long, women try to fight to have choice, right? To fight to have all of equality. And then yet we still limit ourselves being stuck in some of these limiting beliefs of different roles that they're supposed to play, which is why I challenge women to create the life that they want, that they don't have to have a life that looks like Jane or Sally down the road, that they get to, if they want to be a hybrid mom and work, or if they don't want kids, if they don't want to be married, like those are their choices.
I like that. And I saw something on your website about all the little choices that we make. I call them micro choices.
Yes.
Can you speak more to that? Because I think that is amazing stuff to get into.
I love calling them edits. So, and an edit is something outside of us, right? You kind of think of like a Word document. You're writing your story and you can go back and like erase or add to. Now, we can't erase from our story, but we can definitely reframe it. And it's independent of us. But we have the power to create those edits in our life. And a lot of times when we use the word change or transform, it kind of just feels like, I don't know, generic. But an edit seems tangible, and you almost picture yourself with like your phone or your computer or iPad doing something. And so helping women understand that they can have an opportunity to make those small edits in their life, and not large ones, right? Like don't go erasing like a whole paragraph, right? Like let's just make a little tweak. What if it's a comma and not a period? Because you still need to keep going. You don't want to end this season. So just being, again, empowered to create those little edits so that way you can get those big results is huge.
I like that because like when you and I talked before, something that stuck with me that you said was, you know, when you use the word change or transform, people start hyperventilating and get overwhelmed, right? They can. And then, what do? They put their feet right back in the concrete. Like, nope, not doing this, can't do it. No way, no how. But if we can do what our brain is already doing, which is adapting to its environment, you make one small change. No, it is not life-changing in the moment, but over time, you acclimate to that change. Getting up 5 minutes earlier, I guess, would be an example, right? It's not going to change the world, but over time, every morning you get something else done, or you just feel less rushed. Then that has a ripple effect in your life, but it's one small change that after your brain automates it after a month or so, or whatever your process is, you already do it. You already incorporate it into who you are, right? It's like one small habit.
Absolutely. And those edits allow you to create integrity with yourself, right? Especially when they're small. And so many of us don't have integrity with ourselves because we don't follow through with what we say we're going to do. We say we're going to get up at a certain time, then we push the snooze button. Nobody feels good pushing the snooze button, right? We say we're not going to eat that bowl of chocolate ice cream tonight, but yet we do, and we feel hard. Well, when we make small edits, like I'm just not going to buy the ice cream, right? Or I'm going to put my phone far away from my bed, small little edits to set yourself up for success, then you create that integrity with yourself, and you therefore improve your confidence, and then you perform better in all areas of your life just by that one small decision.
That is so well said. You're right. Because I think it's synergistic. I think when we get things straight with ourselves, we build integrity, like you said. And empowerment comes from doing is what I believe and what I always say on the show. It's like you do that one thing, you just told your subconscious, look, we did that. Therefore, we can feel good about ourselves, which empowers us to be able to see ourselves to do more. And I think we always want one better, right? I always tell clients, go ahead and paint one room in your house this weekend. And then Monday, I want you to tell me what the rest of your house looks like, and that you're not motivated to clean up or paint the rest of it. Come on. Right. It's the Diderot effect, which is lovely because I think then the pressure is off. All you have to do is not hit snooze. The rest of the process unfolds, and we don't have to control the whole process either. You know, we can rest assured that we're going to want more and better, we're going to want to feel better and better about ourselves. And when I meet resistance with that with clients, I'm like, okay, let's talk about plastic surgery, shall we? Like we hear and see the heartbreaking stories with someone where it's never enough. I said, take the positive aspect of that and apply it to these small edits that you're making. And in a year, how many edits you can make and how much you can change your life. I mean, was it James Clear who wrote Atomic Habits? I mean, that's his argument too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that
So
book.
great.
Obsessed. Yes. And it is all about those small edits. And he talks about pairing them with things, right? And that you can't take something away. You can't edit something and have something be blank. Like you're going to have to replace it with something. And so for the chocolate ice cream, right, that I may or may not be struggling with right now, like having a cup of tea, have a banana, like how can I replace this, right? And it can just be a small thing. I don't have to go on the keto diet and like make a big deal about this. I can just make this one little edit to build my confidence up so that way the next day I can make it this good choice. And every time we resist that urge to do something that we don't want to do, we're building that confidence. We're building up that muscle in our brain to resist that urge. Well, to embrace it, that you have that urge, right? And then that small edit gives you a tool to kind of work through it. So that way you can become that version of yourself that doesn't have a problem at night with eating the chocolate ice cream and has no problem because they don't push snooze anymore. They've become the person that doesn't do those things. And they were able to do that through those small choices.
Isn't that amazing? So, like you said, become that person, then it becomes an identity change. And then that just brings forth all kinds of great stuff in someone's life. It reminds me of that quote. I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, I can't think my way into a new way of living. I have to live my way into a new way of thinking.
Yes.
And the way I interpret it years later is when you make those small changes, you're gathering experiential data that your brain just can't argue with. That's real. You did it. It happened. You can't argue with it. And so it changes how you see yourself. And that goes back to the limiting beliefs you talked about a few moments ago.
Yeah, absolutely. That action creates clarity. And so every time that you create that action and then you realize, wow, I'm not the, XYZ limiting things that I thought that I was, but you also have to give yourself space to even reflect, right? So often I'm so caught up in the process or getting to the result that I miss the reflection piece and really appreciating how far I've come. And so just the encouragement to take that space to reflect on, even though it just seemed like small little edits, those little edits were hard.
Right.
And they have built up to big, huge edits that I'm very proud of. And being able to celebrate that is something I still struggle with. I'm not going to say I have that figured out, but I think it's so important and part of the process of the editing that there's like this celebration, right? Like I remember in grad school finishing a paper, like a research project and being done. And I never celebrated. Like I need to just celebrate that stuff, right? But my kid, like she loses a tooth and she's wanting to have a party for it, and like kids, they do such a good job of wanting to celebrate. And so I'm trying to learn from my 7-year-old and just this idea of appreciating how far you've come and the effort that you put into things.
Absolutely. Because couple of things I want to say around that is that's why we need a coach to sit with, to reflect back. Hey, look at what you have accomplished. Because when we're in it, like you said, you don't see it so much. And plus, you might not be able to see it because of other reasons. But the other thing is you're giving your brain feedback. Look how far you've come, which also means, like you said earlier, you're becoming this person who can do this stuff. But also, then therefore, the brain does the math. Well, wait a minute, what else can we do?
Ooh, that's good.
Like when I work with people around their relationship, months later, they're like, I started practicing some of this stuff at work, Mary, and it's really, really doing me some big favors. Or invariably, they'll be offered a promotion. Well, now we got to work on your healthy leadership skills, which required you to have some emotional maturity in your marriage to start with, right? And so growth begets growth.
Yes, the trickle effect. Yeah. Yes. The snowball of good choices that really creates this, like, how do I say it? Like, not a good personality, but like it improves who you are. Like, it's okay to be who you are right now, right? But like, you can also want to continue to get better. We don't have to hate ourselves or be frustrated with where we're at. We could just want to improve too, and just not be content with where we're at. Like, want to move forward. And then that again will snowball into so many cool opportunities because of who you've become. And it starts on the inside, right? Just like your plastic surgery comment, right? Like, you can change the outside, but if you don't work on the inside first, it doesn't really matter.
You're right. Because you'll always have a distortion when you look in the mirror. Wow. So who are the people that come to you, and who do you love to help? Can you share a little bit more about that?
My heart is for women who are wanting more but feel stuck. And they're wanting more in the sense of, my life doesn't look like other people's lives. I'm not sure what direction to take. And I'm not even sure who I am anymore. It's kind of what it comes down to it. I love going through the process of identifying who they are and then what they want, and then specifically how to get it. Like, down to specifically, like, if you're struggling with getting up at a certain time, we're going to break it down into like small little pieces. So that way, again, we can build that confidence and that integrity, because many women have lost integrity with themselves because they've put everyone else before them. I
Right.
interact with a lot of caregivers, whether they're caregiving their children, their parents, their spouse, their job is caregiving in some way.
Yeah.
And they just are constantly pouring out and they're depleted. And so to help build them up, refill them with that confidence and that passion so they can get that clarity to keep going, so they can caregive even better and like longer and sustainable. That's my jam. And I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. And so many, especially women, can find themselves in that space when they have kids, is when it happens, or when a parent gets sick, or God forbid, both should happen at the same time. And that does happen to people where they're sandwiched. And so there's big life transitions, right? I wish we would normalize preparing people for that.
Yes.
Get all the support you can so you don't lose yourself, right?
Right. Because if we don't practice good, healthy, boundaries and filling ourselves up when things are good, when things get bad, it's going to be really hard to like tap into those coping skills.
Right.
So being able to, have a therapist, have a coach, right? Have good, solid friends, take care of your body, your mind, your soul, being able to just balancing all of that. When things are good and normal, it's going to get you so much like further along when inevitably life gets challenging.
Yes.
Because that is the blessing of life, is that there are going to be challenges and we're going to learn so much from it.
Right.
But prepare yourself, not in like a dark and doom, but like as a preparation and just being strong. Like the military, right? They create battle plans. They're always preparing. They're always training. And we can be doing that too at a certain level in our life.
Yes, we can. We can take healthy control back. So if I'm a client and now I'm making my own schedule, right? Let's say I have young kids, but I also, want to do my thing, but I'm not really great at self-discipline. Where would we start? Like, I'm not sure that I can create enough structure for myself. Like, I'm great when I had to go to the office back in the day, but now that I'm home, it's like I sit on the couch and I can't even get moving, or I can't get anything done. And then I'm pissed at myself at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so, so real. And I've even been in that spot myself where I just felt like I just kept waiting to be motivated, waiting to have self-discipline, like come to me and like, come on, tap it in. But really what it came down to, and what I coach my clients on, is they're energy gainers and they're energy drainers. So every single day we have things that can drain us of energy. And when we're really intentional, we have things that can give us the energy.
Right.
And so if you are depleted, right, you probably aren't going to have any energy to even create structure and discipline in your life, because that has to be fueled by something. But to take a step even back further, first is we have to figure out who they are. Because if they don't even know who they are, like that clarity of like what they should even be doing, what's driving them as who they are, that's going to really stop them. So we really talk about their values, like who they identify as. So I have a personal contract. When I feel down, I repeat it to myself. And it is, I am Tabitha, and I'm a strong and courageous, bold and consistent child of God. And when I get really out of line and like kind of cray, I look to that, and that really helps me. And so I help my clients also kind of create a personal contract. So when they're sitting on that couch, they can be like, who am I? Okay, I'm bold. I'm courageous. I'm strong. I'm supposed to be consistent. I need to be consistent. How can I be consistent right now? And so then we also get into what gives them the energy and what drains their energy.
That is so important. It makes me think of how energized and motivated you feel coming home from a weekend away, a good weekend away, where you had time to think and be zen and plan. And you're motivated because you're fed and you're replenished, right? We can't pour from an empty cup. And I love what you said about identity and intention, because I just so believe in that. You get your why together, the how comes, right?
It does, but it doesn't come when you want it to come.
Right.
I've also found that. Yeah. Like timing wise, like, okay, I've got it all together now. Now what is it?
Right.
Oh, guess what? I have to like still put the time and energy into it, and it'll eventually be revealed slowly but surely, bits and pieces.
Yep. So true. But I love how you work with who someone is, who they want to continue to become. Where's the gap?
Yeah.
And how do they work on that? And how good that's going to feel. And when they do fall off the horse, how to get back up. Because that's what I wanted to ask you next. Because I run into this all the time too. I think we all run into it as people. You go for a couple weeks, and then you fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
How do you work with clients who now they're frustrated, now they're beating themselves up,
Yeah.
and like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. We talk a lot about grace, extending grace on ourselves, that we are all human, right? Forgiving ourselves. Then also going back to like, were you truly taking care of yourself, right? Like you're going great. Are you doing the things, the energy gainers? Are you getting up at the time that you say you're going to get up so you can have that quiet time with the Lord? Are you exercising? Are you eating right? We can kind of go through some of these like main controllables to kind of evaluate, oh, I see where I got off, you know? And sometimes it's not internal. Sometimes you're doing everything you can and then life happens.
Right.
And that's okay too. Right. And that just sometimes you need that encouragement of like, okay, you have been doing everything fantastic. Like applaud yourself. Now you've got to pivot because of external circumstances. How can we move forward in this new way that we have to go?
I love that, because you can get right back on track. You can tweak something. It retains the idea of possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also messy. It's messy. And that is something that I am learning. I'll be 37 in a couple weeks. And I love order. And to embrace the messy has been really great, honestly, because there's a lot of grace in messy. And I know I can clean anything up and make it orderly, but there's a process of mess before. And so allowing yourself that, and then the reflection, right? Get back into who you are.
Yeah.
Get into those energy gainers, and then you're able to move forward and not feel so stuck.
I love that. Yeah. It's kind of like, you're right. So chaos precedes change. It's like cleaning out your closet. Your bedroom's going to look like a hot mess for an hour or 3 or 5, but you're only going to put things back that you want. And maybe you had to bump into things also to see where else you had to grow. The other thing that I've run into all the time is people share with me, they get tested and then they get frustrated and pissed. I'm like, I'm so glad you're pissed. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Right? I said, because now you're telling me you really want it.
Oh.
You know, we can be kind of lukewarm starting out or profess whatever we profess. But until you're tested, do I really want this? Or, you know, or if they're presented with something that they thought they wanted, but now don't, it really solidifies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this idea that we're driven by passion or pain, right? And sometimes passion only gets us to a certain point and then it's got to get painful. And then maybe that pushes it over, right? Or maybe you're driven by pain and then it creates passion. You know, they can kind of work together, but just allowing your own journey in it and not comparing yourself to how other people reacted from other life scenarios that you feel like you should react to, or they look like they've got their life together in a certain way, and allow that to be an encourager, but not feel like you're worthless, right? Like that it's just like, oh, here's an opportunity to learn and to have the people around you to support you, right? Your like inner circle. So yes, it's amazing to hire a therapist and a coach, but most importantly, having your inner circle friends is vital for sustaining like good mental health, because you need people to call you out. You need people to encourage you. You need to have your crew.
I firmly believe that. I always say we're only as sane as our support. And if we only start with a couple people who can support what you're trying to do for yourself, they have to be like-minded enough, right? Otherwise, they're going to feel threatened by your changes, right? Might want to sabotage it or just don't know what to say because you're making them feel awkward. I do think it is really, really important to get that feedback, that loving accountability and that encouragement.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, like, look how far you've come, girl. That's amazing.
It's so true. I realized when I was at a point in my life that I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go. I stayed home with my girls for 5 years. I was done having biological children. I'm like, what am I going to do when I grow up? Right. And I was able to take that as an opportunity to like get the clarity and move forward in a way that was messy, but was able to truly allow me to make those small edits, right? And be able to get messy, like you said, and find those goals that I really wanted that I'd kind of forgotten about. So many times we forget about these goals that that were on our heart, right? For a long time. And we put other things that, you know, that are important or we think are important in the way. And that just isn't, that doesn't get us to our goal the most efficient way, which a lot of times we're not efficient. But again, being able to have those people is really important. And friends are going to be different. You're going to have a good girlfriend that you can talk to about your spouse. You're going to have a good friend that you can talk to about parenting. To not expect one person to fill in all of the gap, in expecting your spouse to be that friend for you. I think that's where I was coming around. I lost track of my thinking, but that's really where I wanted to go, is that you're going to have different people in your life that have different strengths and to pull on those. And that is why it's so good to have multiple people in your corner.
Oh, I agree. And then we can also get multiple angles on things because humility plays a big part in growth, I think. You're not supposed to have all the answers anymore, and you don't have to. You can have that dichotomy, or it seems like a dichotomy at first, of self-trust, building integrity, like you talked about, which I think is crucial for self-confidence and feeling grounded and not anxious and depressed. But the other part is, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to know exactly what to do or to have the only outlook. I can call a friend and she can, you know, shed some really great wisdom and point things out that I didn't think about.
Yeah, that's a really hard place to be for me because it's vulnerable, right? Like I like to have the hard exterior, like, now I got to figure it out. It's fine. I can figure this out, and I can. But there's also so much sweetness when you are vulnerable. And that's where the true friendship is really formed, is when I've gone to my friends. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Can you help me figure out how to love my husband better, or to be a better mom? Or how do I do this business thing? Should I even be doing it? Like all those questions that come into my mind, to go to my friends and being vulnerable about it is hard, but it's worth the risk.
Oh, we don't connect without connecting with each other's humanity, I don't think. You're right. And we can't heal what we don't reveal is what I always try to think about. And it is hard. We have those distorted beliefs, like we're supposed to have it all together and we're not supposed to not be perfect and have all the answers. We can't be wrong. We're not supposed to be confused. And that's just so not true. I mean, half of the work I do is helping my clients feel like, no, you're not crazy. And no, you're not the only one. And you did not invent this, right? You are not alone.
Right? So true. That normalcy. Yeah, for sure. And for women too, like we're more motivated too with the we versus the me.
Right.
When we know that other women struggle with it, then like we're more empowered to be like, all right, I feel more comfortable sharing my challenges. And then that encourages another person to open up. And it's this amazing positive ripple effect of honesty and vulnerability.
It really is. And that's why we also want to go help others. Once we've learned how to do something or figured something out or faced our own challenges and faced ourselves, right?
Absolutely. I mean, any of us who are coaches or therapists have probably had our own stuff happen, right? Like there's a reason we're in the helping field for a reason.
Right. Exactly. You teach what you have learned and you can walk people along the path as far as you've walked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's what's really powerful. So how long do you usually work with a client? Share with me kind of your program, what you offer, because I know our listeners are probably very interested in checking you out.
Yeah. So I have a 6-week life edit program that we go through. And the reason I chose 6 weeks is really because for the clients that I work with, their brain needs very defined times, right? There's a lot of chaos going in the world, and just to have a defined time. Now, we can continue to do it 6 weeks, but then we focus in on like one area that they're wanting to address. So that way we get into those specific small edits, and then there's like measurable change. I feel like with therapy and coaching, it can be really common for us not to have tangible change, but I love to be able to like create, like, here's some benchmarks we are working towards. So that way, you're making that progress. Because again, as we talked about, here, a lot of times we don't reflect on all of the wins and all of the progress that we've made. So being able to have those benchmarks is really important. And that specific timing has been really helpful for clients as well.
That's wonderful. I love that. You pare it down and you keep it simple and you make it doable and manageable, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed. I think that's brilliant.
Yes. The challenge is then you want to like start working on everything else, right? Because you have all this confidence and you're like, well, can we do this? Like, I want to so badly, but we're going to focus on the one thing that we decided to do. And then like, let's jump into it the next 6 weeks.
That's great. Put some boundaries around it, right? Some reality and some structure and some patience. That's wonderful. Wow. So where can folks find you?
Well, they can find me at tabithaperry.coach. And if they're interested in using a toolkit that I have to kind of help get into their brain and think about their thinking, it's tabithaperry.coach/toolkit. And so it's kind of a fun thing that they can look into.
That's great to get started. Well, I am tickled to have you here today. I've learned some things, and I love how you're helping women in ways that I know from sitting with them for years that they need. You're definitely meeting a need. And I think you're meeting a need that people are afraid to talk about sometimes, right? That they feel disorganized. They can't get their butt off the couch.
Yeah.
They're doubting themselves. They've lost their sense of integrity, like you said. And you are helping them find a way back to who they are.
Yes.
And I just don't think there's any more important work than that.
Oh, thank you. I value it so much and love the vulnerability of the women that come to me. Because like you said, it is really hard for them to like acknowledge, like, this is my job. I should know how to do my job. Right. And to get help. But what I'm saying is I don't know what I'm doing either. I've got a coach. I've got a therapist. Like if anyone's honest, we're all just figuring it out. And what we can do is maybe I'm a couple steps further and then I can teach the women that I am working with on the things that have helped me as well.
Wonderful. Yes. That's how it's all supposed to work. That's why we're all here.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you, Tabitha, and I look forward to having you on the show sometime soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary.
Well, thank you again, Tabitha, for that great conversation all about how small edits can really make a huge difference in your life. So make sure also to check out Tabitha's podcast. Go to her website and follow her on social media. Her information will all be in the show notes, so you can check that out at ownitpowercast.com. And if you don't already get the newsletter, go ahead there and sign up and pass it around. So I hope this week you can find small changes that you can make for you that you can feel really good about. And if you're already doing that, pat yourself on the back. You will get there. But we have to get there one step at a time, one small change at a time. All right, so thanks for hanging out with me this week. Pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.